Welcome back to Review Mash. Controllers charged. Gaming socks ready.
Haha, always.
Good. Because we're diving deep into Dragon Age. The Veil Guard today.
Finally!
Seriously. Been waiting for this one. Our listeners sent in a ton of reviews, so we're going to break it all down, all the hype, the good, the bad.
Everything.
Yep. Help everyone figure out, is this the Dragon Age we've been waiting for?
You know, it's interesting because this isn't just a regular sequel. 10 years since Inquisition, gaming's changed a lot.
Totally. Open world fatigue. Everyone wants a good story.
Right. Feels like a good time for BioWare to really make a statement.
All right. Let's jump into those reviews. Should we be replaying the old games to get ready? What's everyone saying?
You know, that's what surprised me. A lot of reviewers actually recommend revisiting Inquisition, especially for Solas.
Makes sense. He's back, right? And huge part of Inquisition.
Huge. He basically orchestrated the whole thing, and from the reviews, he's a big deal in the Veilguard.
Okay, for anyone who hasn't played Inquisition, real quick, Solas was your companion. Mysterious elven mage, seemed peaceful.
Right. All about understanding.
Then, bam, he's an ancient elven god. Wants to tear down the veil.
Yeah, the veil, that barrier between the world and the Fade, the spirit realm.
Big problem.
Big problem. And the reviewers are saying, understanding Solas, his motivations, his history.
That's key for the Veilguard.
It seems like it. Plus, apparently some fun callbacks and cameos for those who remember the key moments from Inquisition.
Okay, so, Inquisition check. What about Origins and Dragon Age 2? Need to cram those in, too.
Here's the thing. The Veilguard tries to streamline things for newcomers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they simplified the import process. Only a few big decisions from Inquisition carryover.
Gotcha. So not totally essential, but...
But if you really want to go deep on the lore, the world, Origins will give you that appreciation for how the series has evolved.
Especially the combat, right.
Especially the combat. Talk about a transformation. No more pausing, no more micromanaging your party.
It's so different. You're only controlling your character, Rook. Just give commands to your companions on the fly.
Yep. Some reviewers are calling it a Dragon Age take on the Mass Effect combat.
Ooh, that's interesting. Could be amazing, could be a disaster.
Right. It's a gamble. Reviews are, let's say, divided, is putting it nicely.
Uh-huh. Okay. So some love it, some hate it.
Pretty much. It's some praise how fluid it is, that adrenaline rush makes combat feel impactful, visceral.
And the others.
One even said Inquisition's combat feels like wading through molasses compared to this.
Ouch. 10 years, and that's the comparison. All right, so faster, more action. What about the world? Another giant open world like Inquisition.
This is where it gets really interesting. They actually ditched the open world.
Really?
Yeah. It's more focused, mission-based structure. Think Mass Effect 2, different planets, each with its own environment, objectives.
So no more endless fetch quests, map markers everywhere.
From what the reviews say, no more of that. They're praising the pacing. Each mission feels important, part of the story. Okay, that's promising. But you still get to explore.
Oh, tons to explore. Reviewers rave about the level design. They call it a mix of linear storytelling and open exploration.
That's a good balance.
Yeah.
Gotta ask, though, the visuals. BioWare always knows the visuals. After Inquisition, the bar is high.
Get ready, because reviewers are saying breathtaking, jaw-dropping visual feast.
Oh, okay, good start.
They're loving the environments, the elven ruins of Arlathan Forest, shimmering.
Beautiful.
Gothic necropolises. And then Minrethus. Rain-soaked streets, almost noir-inspired.
Minrathis, for those who don't know, that's the Tevinter Imperium's capital. Magic, intrigue, moral ambiguity.
Right.
Darker, more decadent, ancient Rome, ruled by mage lords.
Exactly. And going to Minrethus, that suggests a darker story, morally gray.
Makes sense, which is interesting because some reviewers say the main plot is a bit too straightforward.
Yeah, there's that.
So not enough of those tough Dragon Age moral dilemmas.
Seems like some critics want more of that. They say the villains are a little too evil just to be evil, lacking that nuance, that complexity.
Like Loghain in Origins or Corypheus in Inquisition.
Exactly. One reviewer even compared the tone to a Marvel movie. You're the hero, you're going to save the day, no question.
Interesting. So, fascinating setting, but maybe a predictable story.
It's a bit of a mixed bag, yeah. But you know what makes or breaks a BioWare game for me?
The companions. Gotta have good companions.
Absolutely. Compelling characters, their own stories, romances. That's what keeps me coming back.
Lead.
Well, the Veilguard is shaking things up in the companion department.
Okay, I'm listening. Smaller cast than Inquisition, but...
But they're making each one feel vital to the story.
Okay, I like that. Give me some examples. Who are we hanging out with?
Well, you've got Davrin, a Grey Warden who's raising a baby griffin.
Oh, baby griffin.
Yeah. Trying to save the species from extinction.
Yeah.
Fantasy conservationism, basically.
Okay, I'm already attached. Who else?
Then there's Neve, a mage detective in Minrathis,
Ooh, a detective.
trying to make the city a better place, even with all the corruption, the prejudice. Sharp-tongued, cynical, but strong sense of justice.
I love her already. Sounds like some great banter with Rook.
What about romances? Don't leave me hanging.
Uh-huh. Multiple romance options confirmed. And reviewers are hinting some of the best, most emotionally satisfying romances in this series.
Ooh, really? That's exciting. But do they interact with each other? The companions?
Ah, you're thinking about Inquisition.
Yeah, they felt so isolated.
Good news. Reviewers consistently praise the camaraderie in the Veilguard.
Oh, good.
They have their own dynamics, their own conflicts, they bond organically. BioWare really made them feel like a team.
Okay, I'm impressed. But the big question, choices and consequences. It's Dragon Age. Those choices shape Thedas.
Yeah, the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the reviews, a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, big choices, especially towards the end, big impact.
Ooh, I love those. The ones that keep you up at night. Any comparisons to other BioWare moments? Like, is there a Vermeer moment? One reviewer actually mentioned a choice that reminded them of Vermeer.
No way.
They wouldn't spoil it, but said you sacrifice something precious, face the consequences, give them goosebumps.
Wow. So we've got the big, impactful choices, but mixed bag, right?
The downside is, some reviewers say the Veilguard is a little heavy-handed.
How so?
They're constantly reminding you about the impact of your choices. Flashing warnings like, this decision will have consequences.
Huh. Almost like they don't trust the player to figure it out.
Yeah, a little bit. And then there's the streamlined import process. Only a few decisions from Inquisition carry over.
Yeah, does that limit the feeling of continuity?
That's the debate. Some reviewers are disappointed their choices from Origins and Dragon Age 2 don't have much impact.
They put all that time into their world state, and it's ignored.
It's a tough balance, appealing to new players, satisfying the veterans, something BioWare's struggled with.
It really is. So maybe a step forward, maybe a step back.
But even with the criticisms, most agree, the Veilguard is a thrilling ride. Maybe not as morally complex, but still those BioWare moments. Character development, emotional storytelling, and yeah, even some gut-wrenching choices.
All right, sounds like a wild ride so far.
Yeah.
But before we tell everyone to pre-order or maybe wait for a sale,
Right.
got to talk technical performance. What's a beautiful, engaging game if it runs like a haggard apostate on their last legs?
Exactly. So, any red flags?
What are the reviewers saying? Another Andromeda situation.
You can breathe easy. It seems BioWare learned from their mistakes. Reviewers praise the Veilguard's stability optimization.
Good. Especially on PC.
Especially on PC. Smooth frame rates, minimal bugs, polished experience.
No day one patches. Always a good sign. What about accessibility? We talked about those features. Did reviewers mention them?
They did. They're calling the accessibility options a major win, especially the customizable difficulty, subtitles, color line modes.
All the good stuff.
Makes it more inclusive, playable for everyone. BioWare clearly put in the effort.
Awesome.
Okay,
So we've got a polished game, runs well, accessible. Before we wrap up this first part, though, got to address the elephant in the room.
Oh.
The comparisons to other games. Everyone's doing it.
Right. Is it like X or Y? The Veilguard's no exception. We talked about Mass Effect, the combat, the missions.
Right.
But there's another one that keeps coming up, Dragon's Dogma 2.
That's interesting. Dragon's Dogma 2, it's all about tough combat exploration companions called pawns.
Right.
On the surface, definitely some similarities to Dragon Age.
Yeah.
Especially with the Veilguard going more action-heavy.
Absolutely. And some reviewers are even saying Dragon's Dogma 2 might be good for those who want that open-world experience, deep combat.
So if you're on the fence about the Veilguard or need something to hold you over,
Dragon's Dogma 2 might be worth checking out.
good suggestion. It's cool to see how RPGs are evolving. Games like the Veilguard and Dragon's Dogma 2 pushing boundaries.
It's an exciting time to be a gamer, that's for sure.
It really is. But before we get too lost in the future of RPGs, let's bring it back to the Veilguard. We've covered a lot. The old games, the combat, the world, technical stuff.
Yeah, a lot.
But the big question remains, is it worth your time?
That's the one.
To answer that, we need to go deeper. The critical reception, overall impressions, the downsides.
That's for next time.
Exactly. So grab another drink, get comfy. We'll be back soon with part 2.
We'll tackle the big question. Is the Veilguard a worthy successor to Dragon Age? Okay, so let's get into those reviews. What are the critics really saying about Dragon Age? the Veilguard.
Spill the tea.
Overall, pretty positive. A lot of reviewers calling it BioWare's best in years.
That's got to feel good for them. After Andromeda and Anthem, you know?
Totally. You can tell there's a sense of relief in these reviews. Like, BioWare found their groove again. They're back to telling great stories.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But not all sunshine and roses, right? We talked about the main plot maybe being straightforward.
Yeah.
Anything else the critics are bringing up?
You're right. Not everyone's saying best game ever. One thing that keeps coming up is the tone.
The tone.
Yeah, how it feels compared to the other Dragon Age games, the writing for the companions, everyone loves that. Top notch. But the main plot, the whole evil god thing,
Yeah.
some think it's a bit predictable.
Oh, interesting. So after all the shades of gray in the other games, some want more moral ambiguity, less black and white.
Exactly. One reviewer even said it felt like a Marvel movie. Like, you're the hero, you're going to win, no question. They miss those tough choices, the ones where there's no right answer.
Like in Origins, choosing between the werewolves and the elves.
That's the one. Knowing either way, someone loses. Those were the moments that made Dragon Age unique.
Totally. Those choices that stick with you. What about the pacing, though? We talked about how the mission structure might help with the open world fatigue, but does it work for the story?
That's where it gets interesting. Most reviewers agree the pacing is great, especially Act 2 and 3. Story really picks up, the stakes get higher, there's that sense of urgency.
You're racing against time to stop the apocalypse. And what about those big BioWare moments? The epic battles, the shocking reveals. They got those.
Oh, tons of them sprinkled throughout the game, even in the companion missions, side quests.
Really?
Yeah. One reviewer talked about a moment in a companion quest they had to make a split-second decision, like life or death for a character they really cared about.
Wow.
They said it hit them harder than some of the choices in the main plot.
That's powerful stuff. Sounds like they still know how to deliver those emotional punches, even outside the main story.
Absolutely. There are some criticisms of the early game, though, Act 1 specifically.
What's wrong with Act 1?
Some felt it was rushed, like too much exposition, too many characters thrown at you at once.
I can see that, especially for newcomers. It's like the game's trying to get to the action so fast, it forgets to breathe, to let you connect with the characters, build those relationships.
Right, and even though the streamlined import process is convenient, some reviewers felt disconnected from the past games, like their choices didn't really matter.
That's a tough one. Trying to appeal to new players, but also make the veterans feel like their choices mattered.
It really is. We've seen BioWare struggle with that before.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. So with the Veilguard, maybe they nailed it, maybe not. We'll have to see.
It's going to be interesting to see how everyone reacts. Is this a good direction for Dragon Age? Or is it too far from what people loved?
The big question. But okay, before we get too philosophical,
Aha!
we got to talk tech. What good's a beautiful game if it's full of bugs?
Nobody wants to be fighting frame rate drops when they're trying to save the world.
Exactly. So what's the verdict? Did they learn from Andromeda?
Take a deep breath, because it seems like they did. Reviewers are praising the Veilguard's stability optimization.
Good, especially on PC.
Especially on PC, smooth frame rates, minimal bugs, polished experience, even at launch.
That's what we like to hear. No day one patches needed. And accessibility? We talked about those features. What are the reviewers saying?
They're calling them a huge win. The customizable difficulties, subtitles, colorblind modes, all of it. It's clear they wanted to make the Veilguard playable for everyone.
That's awesome. It's so important that games are accessible to everyone no matter what. Good on BioWare for making it a priority.
Couldn't agree more. It shows they care about inclusivity and that everyone should be able to enjoy gaming.
Okay, so we've got the good, the bad, and the techie stuff. We talked about the story, the combat, the world, even compared it to Dragon's Dogma 2. But now we got to address the big question.
The big one.
The overall reception and what it means for Dragon Age. Masterpiece. Misstep. What are we thinking?
Let's dive into those reviews and find out.
Okay, so we've torn apart those reviews, looked at all the changes, debated the good and the bad. Everything Dragon Age. The Veilguard.
And now, the big question, the one everyone's wondering.
Is it worth it? Is the Veilguard worth your time?
Right. After all this, it's a tough call. There's a lot to love, but some things to think about, too.
So let's break it down. What are the big selling points? What makes you say, yes, play this game?
For me, the gameplay, for sure. Combat is fluid, responsive. It just feels good. It's not Origins, that tactical style, but it feels like a natural next step.
Yeah. A lot of reviewers called out the skill system. They're saying it's the most versatile, the most engaging in this series.
Definitely. So many options to customize how you play, and you can respec whenever you want, so you can experiment, try different builds.
I love that. Encourages you to really explore all the options.
And then there's the world. Even though it's not a giant open world like Inquisition, the environments are stunning. The detail, the colors, the atmosphere, it's immersive.
We've got those Eglon ruins, the necropolises,
Yeah.
Menrathess with its rain-soaked streets.
Yeah.
It's a visual treat.
Oh, absolutely. And the companions, smaller group this time, but each one feels like a key part of the story.
They stand out, they feel real.
Their stories are interesting, their personalities are unique, and the way they interact with each other, with you, it feels genuine.
The reviewers loved the writing for the companions. They said it was emotionally depth, and it handled some complex themes really well.
Definitely. And even though the main plot might not be the most morally challenging, those companion stories, they have those classic BioWare moments, choices with real consequences.
Okay, so we've got great gameplay, beautiful world, memorable characters. But you mentioned some concerns earlier. What should players be prepared for? What might not click with everyone?
The biggest thing is the tone and the complexity. If you're expecting a game like Origins or Dragon Age 2, where morality is super gray, you might be disappointed. The Veilguard is more straightforward.
It's more streamlined, more action-focused, still a BioWare RPG, but with a bit of a blockbuster movie feel.
Exactly. And the mission structure, while it's good for pacing, it does mean less freedom to explore. It's not that giant open world like Inquisition. You're going between different zones, completing objectives.
And that streamlined import process, it means your choices from the old games, they don't have a huge impact. This story, it's connected to the Dragon Age world, but it's its own thing.
Right. So going in, it's good to know what to expect. The Veilguard is not trying to be Origins or Dragon Age 2 or even Inquisition. It's something new.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We need games that try new things, that push the boundary.
Exactly. And from what we've seen, the Veilguard is doing that. It's taking those great parts of BioWare's history and building something new and exciting.
So after all this, the big question still stands. Is Dragon Age, the Veilguard, worth your time?
If you're looking for a polished game, action-packed, beautiful to look at, with great companions, and a story that will keep you engaged, then yes, absolutely check it out.
It's a game that'll get people talking, debating, Dragon Age fans especially. But one thing's clear, BioWare's back, and they're taking risks.
The Veilguard is a big step for the series. It'll be interesting to see where Dragon Age goes from here.
And that's what makes it so exciting. It's a chance to go back to Thedas, see familiar faces, and go on a new adventure.
So, to everyone getting ready to jump back into Thedas, we say this. Embrace the change, enjoy the ride, and be ready for a Dragon Age experience unlike any other.
That's it for this deep dive on Dragon Age, the Veilguard. We'll be back soon to talk about other games, break down more reviews. You know the drill.
Until then, happy gaming!